Hello, it's Matthew David, the Minister of Allowing, and this is going to be class 2, week 2, and I'm calling this transmission The Key of Matthew David. Now, this is going to be about the 5-step process that you can use repeatedly to produce a spiritual transformation. Now, you may be wondering, why should I sit through this video? Maybe it's going to be a half an hour, maybe it's going to be less, maybe an hour. Well, you could go back to watching all the other videos, but let me ask you a question. Are you getting any solutions, or are you just feeding more of the same problem? You see, every problem is a wisdom problem. And when you discover the wisdom, then you get the outcome of what always was, is, and is to come, which is good in your life. So, week 1, I hope you followed along and I hope you got the ABC break process mastered. So, again, my website at matthewdavidhurtado.com. Here is the, we'll talk a little bit about the 3-2-1 today. But first of all, I wanted you to master this process right here, this ABC break process, because this is so critically important. Using the power of a ritual on a daily basis is one of the most foundational steps in changing your life, because it is your daily habits that determine your destiny. It's not what happens to you, it is your state of being that determines the outcome. This is all about conditioning yourself, just like an athlete does, many, many drills over and over and over again to condition themselves. You do that with your consciousness with this. So when I played hockey when I was young, I used to go outside and shoot pucks, and I shot hundreds of shots every single day when I'd go out and practice. And consequently, that made me a very, very skilled shooter. Well, that's the same with this. If you want to be a very skilled manifester, you got to do what it takes to put yourself into that state. The entire universe is quite simple. Everything that God already created is what you're living in, the fullness of Him. Now, you get to choose your vantage point. You get to choose which state you occupy, the frequency you're in, and the quality of your thought reflection. Are you reflecting the thoughts of men or the thoughts of God? Quite simple, right? So, under the assumption that you've done this assignment, let me go up here and let me tell you something I want you to study while you're applying this 5-step formula this week. This 3-2-1 prosperity formula is what I use on rinse and repeat over and over and over and over and over, because it's what I discovered when I was bedridden with Lyme disease and I was bankrupt. I didn't have anything. I started with a small seed. And because of the principle of the seed, the only influence you have over your future is your seed, I was able to parlay that into millions and millions, okay, by wisdom. You see, everything outside of me was against me. Maybe you're in that situation now, but wisdom prevails. That's what you're here to learn on this physical trajectory. So, learn the 3-2-1, apply the 3-2-1. I promise you, it will change the way you look at how the world operates. See? Now, let me just show you an example. So, if we go to Facebook here, we have the Allow Ministries, and I recommend you participate in that. See, my wife, Sabrina Jean, she comes on 3 times a day, most days, and she does a prayer. And this is to keep your consciousness elevated at the higher level so that these lower density frequencies can't suck you down into the vortex of poverty. Poverty is a state. Now, here's what I want to get to. This right here, a friend of mine, Stephen Bishop, he's been to our workshop, and I made a video recently, and he put this on the YouTube channel. Look, yes, it works very well. The 3-2-1. He's talking about the 3-2-1 prosperity formula. He goes on, I'm prospering in the COVID-19, and all I've done is, well, nothing. I got fired, I got homeless, and I got broke in 1 week. Well, after having hissy, which I'm not proud of, the Most High gave me a better job, also opportunity to help my family, and being able to help others to be able. All praise to the Most High. Now, that is the perfect example of how God will put you in the mystery so that he can show you that your reasoning mind is not it. Step one of the ABC break processes, it is not it. Disconnect from that. Here, I want to read this to you. This formula, the 3-2-1 prosperity formula, I've been teaching it for years at MatthewDavidHurtado.com. Why should you care? Because like Stephen discovered, it's not about what happens out there. You see the hand of God working in spite of you most often. It works in spite of you. For instance, I tithe my way to increase. Yes, I've seen the 1,000-fold return more than once. But it happened in God's mysterious ways. How? In seemingly unrelated yet synchronistic events. For example, now this is when I had my nutrition store and it was failing. I locked the door and went in the back room. I shut the door and went in the back room and played my guitar because it was the fastest path to my joy in that moment. That is the key number one in that formula. Okay, that aligns you with your destiny. That puts you in the vibration of receiving what you're asking for. That's why it worked, because out there is an illusion. So all of my problems were out there being orchestrated through reasoning in the middle kingdom, my mind. So I went to the inner kingdom and activated the frequency of joy, the quality of receiving, and I demonstrated, get this, I'll tell you what happened. This happened to me about 4 times so far in my life. Same example. Now, a sudden idea for an overnight business became an instant 6-figure income. Okay, I had this download while playing the guitar. I acted on it, and within 7 minutes and 34 seconds, I made that video. And instantly, it was selling $100 net profit kits online that night, and to the tune of 3 to 5 of them a day. It was an instant, overnight 6-figure income off of one funnel page through a one YouTube video. That what God gave me the idea in that space. Now, that happened not because I was chasing my desire to fix a problem. I didn't start from a problem. Remember week 1's training. I did not start from a problem and try to get to a solution. I went to a solution to an emotional state. Get this. I went to a solution to the emotional state within me. The inner kingdom is the secret because the world is inside of you, not outside of you. So I went within. I fixed the emotional state by occupying a new state. That's a new parallel universe. Let that sink in. I followed my joy. Wow. There's a bit more to it, of course, but all I can say is stop thinking and solve all your problems. Read that again and again. Stop thinking and solve all your problems. So your thinking is the cause of your troubles because, like Stephen writes, here, he lost his job and a better one came. So who is he to judge? See, man is not in the right vision to judge what is happening in the allness if he sees a problem, because God doesn't see a problem. So now we have 2 opposing points of view. That's to be double-minded. What we want to do, that's key principle number 2, is we want to remain in pure awareness, which is also non-judgment. Let God be the judge. And we operate in a flow state. By doing that, in flow makes you up to 1100% more effective in everything you're doing. Pretty cool, huh? So you see, I know something about finances because I experienced it several times. Okay, the sudden, massive, thousandfold increase. And I started from bankrupt. So here's the deal: judgments towards others, anyone, Bill Gates, it doesn't matter. Judgments towards others, no matter who they are, creates blockages in the flow of good in your life. Remember, they're not there. The world is not there. You're being tested. This is a school. That's what the trajectory of the physical reality is. It's a school. That's a schoolmaster. See, when you judge someone, you're judging. If it breathes, it's the Holy Spirit. You're judging the Holy Spirit. Not a good idea. Now, remember, I talked about the principle of loving disallowance. You don't have to allow evil things into your inner kingdom where your real life is. You operate in a state of love and you disallow the fruit of that wickedness into your imagination. You cut it down, you cast it down immediately. So, this includes money, this money flow to you. I've had it happen so many times. That's how I noticed the principle operating. So I fixed it. The faucet of supply turns back on. Love pours from me and it goes right back into my wallet. Imagine that. Now, I thought I'd share this with you. It's easy to judge others, especially in times like these. And I know many people are sitting there for hours and hours watching all the evil that's going on the planet. And I'm going to have to be real with you. The minute that sets in your heart, it's not going to go well because it will carry a graven image in front of the Holy Spirit, which is your imagination, and the frequency of your heart drops low because you move out of love into frustration, lack, guilt, anger, resentment. These things are poison because your inner kingdom is the real life frequency. And then the imagination, when that has a graven image in front of it, it will create. You see, you have to be very diligent at the doorway of thought. Now, I put a PS on here. This is going to be a very, very critical alignment thing for you. I get a little cautious when I want to go forward and create a business or a book or anything like that. I have 2 #1 best-selling books. One's an international #1 bestseller. Obviously, a lot of things have happened since I've released those, including the censorship and all these things. Who cares? Because my supply doesn't come from out there. I don't get all excited about that. I've had businesses taken down. I've had YouTube channels shut down, 3 of them. I've had all these things happen to people that are going on, and God has continued the harmony in my life and the prosperity because that is a fact of life. Harmony exists, and outside of it, there is nothing but darkness and ignorance. And when you bring the light to the darkness in the 5-step formula that I'm going to show you, it corrects the situation. So the world says, go out and take what you want. I think that's a load of BS. It works in the gym because guess what? In the gym, you're giving more. You're putting more of you out, more energy out. See? But it doesn't work in the business world for most people. Look at them. Let's hustle, strive, all this stuff. Everything's upside down in the upside down world, okay? You see, because you're coming from want. Want means lack. So vibrationally, it sets up resistance. Now, here's the key. Get this. I am happy and ready for more. I am happy and ready for more. That is the sweet spot. That is the sweet spot. You see, that is the sweet spot. I am happy and ready for more. Okay, good. Now we've gotten through a lot of this material. Let's look at the 5-step process and let's look at the pieces, the components, and how simple it actually is. So let me open up this right here and I'll bring this into the alignment so it's all in the screen. Now I wrote it into our I released this about a week ago to our Seed Faith partners first. Those are the individuals who tithe and support the ministry and are blessed for their seeds. Now, I'm giving it to you today, and I want you to know that wisdom automatically digs its own roots inside of you as long as you contemplate it. Whatever you contemplate, you become. If you shrug it off, if you ignore it and do nothing, then there is nothing that will change in your life ever. If you contemplate it, it will dig its roots into you and take over your consciousness. That's what you want. If you act on it, you will demonstrate miracles, because the miracle formula is nothing more than applying wisdom to a human problem. That's all a miracle is. Let me read this to you, and then we'll talk about the formula. It's right in this email. Let me remind you of the fact that it's not you, not your neighbor, not your job or business that determines your prosperity. It is God's grace. Watch and see how easy a harvest is to claim your good from once you realize the source. Turn only to that source and put all your trust in his goodness. Now, therein, I want you to see that. That's very specific. Realize the source, turn only to the source, and put all your trust in goodness. I repeat one more time. Realize the source within, God within. Turn only to the source, not man, not your job, not your neighbor. They're not even there. It's all a simulation. You're being tested. Put all of your trust in goodness. That means contemplate goodness, you get goodness. Contemplate all this wickedness that people spend hours watching. You're being mind controlled, okay, by the Luciferian matrix. Ooh, look, we better do something. Sign a petition, raise up, get all mad. No, you're activating that vibration in your heart. Please turn away. Now, we'll get to that. Today, meditate on the following simple prayer. Watch how these words reach you. I am. That's God. And now, consequently, these sounds are ah, e, om. I om. I'll get into that in a future lesson, but I am is God, the infinite source of supply that never fails, remains eternally intact, and constantly pours forth loving plenty to fulfill all my human needs. I lean only on God. I put all my trust in God. I keep my peaceful non-judgment as to what's going on out there, because it's all his kingdom. God is the only power. God is the only presence. God is the only mind. Again, God is the only power. Praise you, God. See, it's our human judgment, which leads to resentment, blocking the flow of good, that disrupts the eternal demonstration in now time of God's blessings upon our lives. The world out there is at war with the truth. The story never changes. That is the school itself. But Jesus, Nazarene Christ, your living human imagination built in the image and likeness of the Father, already overcame the world. So here is the formula. Step number 1, and you can go ahead and take a screenshot of this. Please write it down. Follow these steps in order, and I'll explain each one. Turn away from the perception of a problem. Remember week 1, you can't start from a problem, get to a solution. So turn away from human perception of a problem. Like Stephen wrote, he lost his job and he became homeless, and then something better came. See, was that a problem? Only if he looked at it that way. Turn away from what you think is a problem. Your thinking is the problem. Number 2, declare that God's law of eternal good is the only power at work in your life and life circumstances right now. Now, get this. Number 3 is how you make contract. rest in peace. Right in plain sight. You must lay down your life to gain your life. The tombstone says, RIP, rest in peace, because Romans 8, if you live in the flesh, then death and destruction are your consequences. So you rest in peace. You're dead to sin and alive in spirit. When you rest in a peaceful state in your heart, you are dead to sin and alive in spirit, because peace occupies non judgment. It gets you out of the way. Let go and let God. See, you lay down your life to gain your life, so you walk not by human sight. Instead, you can trust your life to God regardless of appearances. Your peace is a contract that connects you to the performance of the covenant and gives you the provision, protection, and promotion you're looking for. You see, when you go in war with those ideas out there, I'm just going to rise up and rebel. What are you saying? You're going to occupy anger, frustration, and then it's going to bring guilt, shame, and condemnation upon you because you're not contemplating good any longer. You've become double minded. Now you're contemplating evil. It's not going to happen in the way that serves you. So, number 4, pour forth your imagination over the perceived problem from out there. See, your imagination is a living being. You don't look to it, you're in it. It is the real you. It's the living Christ. It's a living being. Yes, your life is not physical. It is spiritual, eternal, factual, in the mind of God. That imagination of spirit is real. It is all in all, which means there are not 7 billion, 9 billion people on the planet that all can imagine. No, 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 no. There's one imagination, and it is expressing life within itself. And imagination is the living Christ. And when you pour forth your imagination, okay, again, the ABC break process, that's the mechanics of using your imagination to fulfill the void or the lack or the disharmony, to bring the Christ to the equation. So, number 4 and number 5 are so important because number 5 is you speak only of what you desire to experience. The only 2 things divine about you are your imagination and your spoken word. And that includes your internal dialogue. Now, the reason why is because the Word was with God and God called himself the Word. The Word never comes back void. Your spoken word and your imagination are divinity. Everything else is non essential, it's nothing. All of your human will and striving and all these things are vanity in the sight of God. This is what the law of least effort means. Now, release your words upon the situation and declare it as settled. That means don't change your mind. Refuse to waver or change your mind. Be unreasonably expectant for God's goodness to show up. It will. It's a divine law. So let's sum this up. So step number 1, turn away from the problem. This almost looks like the ABC break process, right? Step number 2, declare. Now, this is where you gain wisdom. This is the wisdom that puts you back into the flow of allowing. Look, the only power at work here is God. God's law is eternal good for his man. It's harmony. Outside of harmony, nothing exists but ignorance. The only suffering on the planet is ignorance of the Father. This is God in operation, so good must come. Therefore, I rest in peace. I occupy a state of peaceful non-resistance, and I allow, through my peace, God to take over the battle, which means I walk not by human sight. I trust my entire life to God. Now, I activate the living Christ. Oh, there's a problem? Well, I can imagine that problem being fulfilled as if it already happened years ago. That's the ABC break process. And then, you see, I speak what I desire, only of what I desire. Use the words I am. I am this perfect day. I am rich lavish prosperity pouring in all of my financial affairs now. I am good expressed in my material world now. You see, if you would just occupy peace, speak those words of what you desire in the I am, giving God the authority to operate in your life by getting out of the way with your resistance, stop thinking, and all your problems will go away. Then the Red Sea will open for you and carry you to the promised land of milk and honey. You will be tested for your faith. It might not happen within 5 seconds. When I first started learning these, it was within about 30 to 60 days that I went from bedridden and bankrupt to six-figure income for the first time in my life. Then I parlayed it into a seven-figure income because I was, get this, happy and ready for more all the way through. I never left that state. See, that's the key. So I want to leave you with that, and I'll be back next week. And remember, when man thinks he is giving, he is receiving. Be blessed.